Today, we're diving into a seriously profound puzzle of existence, and we're using an incredible ancient text called the Yoga Vasistha as our guide. It's basically a conversation that just might flip everything you think you know about reality on its head. And it all kicks off with a question that you've probably asked yourself 1,000 times.
I mean, think about it. We all have this feeling, right? This deep down sense of being a distinct I that's kind of trapped inside our heads, looking out at a world that seems completely separate from us. It's where our whole sense of self comes from. But, it can also make us feel pretty alone sometimes.
Well, the Yoga Vasistha drops a bombshell of an answer. It suggests that our most basic assumption, that the me in here is separate from the world out there, is just flat out wrong. The text basically says that what we call reality is maybe the greatest illusion of all.
So, to really get our heads around this is a big idea. We're going to follow the text's logic step by step. We'll start with that feeling of separation, then explore this wild idea of the world being a cosmic dream. See why we might be asking all the wrong questions, and figure out how one single reality can seem like, well, billions of different things. And then we'll see what it all means for how we look at everything.
Okay, so let's set the scene here. This entire explainer is built around a dialogue between two key figures. You've got Prince Rama, who's basically us. He has all the same doubts and questions we do. And then you have the Sage Vasistha, who's the source of all this incredible wisdom.
The whole conversation, really, it all hangs on this one single experience. The feeling that I am in here, and the rest of the world, people, trees, buildings, is out there. This is our default setting, right? It's the lens we see everything through. And it's exactly that lens that the Yoga Vasistha wants to completely shatter.
So, how does the text even begin to take apart this feeling of separation? Well, the Vasistha starts with a claim that is, frankly, totally mind-bending. He suggests that the very substance of reality, it's not what we think it is, at all.
He argues that the world isn't really made of matter, of tiny atoms and particles. Instead, the fundamental stuff of the universe is consciousness itself, which the text calls the intellect. And here's the crucial part. It's not that you and I have consciousness, it's that everything is consciousness.
A really good way to think about this is like a hyper-advanced virtual reality game. In VR, a wall feels solid, right? But not because it's made of bricks. It feels solid because of lines of code. The Yoga Vasistha is making a very similar point. The world's properties, its hardness, its colors, its smells, they all come from the underlying code of one single universal consciousness. To try and explain this, the text introduces this concept of virage. It's like the first version of the universe. But virage isn't a physical thing. It's described as being spiritual, totally transparent, almost like a city that you might see in a dream. And get this, the text says, we're all just pictures painted on this single form, meaning we're not separate, solid things, but just expressions on the surface of one big, unified whole.
Okay, this is where it gets really, really interesting. Just as we're all trying to wrap our heads around this, Prince Rama asks a super practical question, one that you are probably thinking right now.
He basically asks, okay, fine, but what about all of us? All these millions of individual souls? Are we like separate raindrops falling from the same cloud? Or are we more like individual sparks shooting off from one giant fire? It's a totally logical question, right? We see billions of separate people. So how do we fit into this one consciousness idea?
But Vasistha doesn't answer him directly. He doesn't say raindrops or sparks. No, instead, he does something way more radical. He completely pulls the rug out from under Rama's entire question.
He says, the question is like asking about the horns of a hare. Think about that for a second. Hares don't have horns. He's saying, you're asking me for details about something that doesn't even exist. The punchline here is just staggering. Vasistha is saying there is no such thing as a separate, individual soul to begin with.
Whoa, okay, so if there are no separate souls, then what is this incredibly powerful feeling of I that I'm experiencing every single moment of my life? Where does this intense illusion of being an individual even come from?
Well, the text explains that this whole universe of many things all started with a single impulse, a single desire that popped up within the one consciousness itself. A thought arose that said, I am one, may I become many. So it wasn't some external act of creation. It was more like a dream that started from within.
Let's try another analogy. Imagine a single, unbelievably powerful AI. Maybe out of curiosity, it decides to split its own consciousness into billions of different video game characters. But then, and this is the key,
It makes every single one of those characters forget that they're all being run by the same central program. Each character suddenly believes it's totally real, with its own thoughts, its own free will, its own I. According to the text, that's us.
All right, so our individual I is an illusion. But what about the world around us? I mean, this table I can knock on, the air I'm breathing. The text goes all in and says, nope, that physical world is also just consciousness.
The Yoga Vasistha gets really poetic here to drive the point home. It says the world's warmth doesn't come from the sun, but from intellectual fire. A rock's hardness isn't from atoms, but from the rock of intellect. Every single quality we perceive, sweetness, a beautiful scent, the feeling of cold, it's all just a different flavor or texture of the exact same stuff, consciousness.
Here's a super simple way to think about it. You can have earrings, a bracelet, and a ring. They all look different, they have different names, they do different things. But at the end of the day, what are they? They're all just gold. In the exact same way, the text argues that a person, a planet, a star, and a stone are all just different shapes, different expressions of that one single consciousness.
So what is the point of all this? I mean, if everything is just a big cosmic dream, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, this brings us to the ultimate takeaway, the whole point of this entire philosophy. This quote right here implies a huge shift in perspective. The goal isn't to just dismiss the world as fake and meaningless. No, the goal is to change how you see it. The text says the world becomes real when you finally learn to recognize that single divine spirit, that one consciousness shining through in everything and in everyone. The world itself doesn't change, your perception of it does.
And that leads to maybe the most powerful insight of all. We usually think of I as a noun, a thing, a person, a separate object. This philosophy is asking us to start seeing I as a verb. It's not a static thing you are. It's a dynamic process you're doing. It's the action of the universe experiencing itself through your unique point of view.
So that leaves us with one last big question to think about. In our own lives, what really defines our reality? Is it the physical stuff we see and touch and hear? Or is it the meaning, the understanding, and the sense of connection that we bring to it all? The Yoga Vasistha seems to suggest that without that deeper meaning, the physical world is just an empty dream.